Okay, so you want to own a car wash, buy the equipment, hire a crew, watch the cars roll through. Here's the strange part. The largest car wash company in the United States just went private in a $3.1 billion deal. After spending 5 years as a public company with its stock sitting 50% below the IPO price. Private equity didn't exit. They bought more. There is a business hiding in plain sight on nearly every commercial corner in America, one that most people use without thinking, and almost no investor takes seriously. It generates over $20 billion a year. It is still 80% independently owned. And the operators who cracked its real model are producing margins that would embarrass most restaurants, most franchises, and most of what passes for a good business in this country. If you think a car wash makes money every time a car pulls in, you are missing the entire point of how this industry actually works. How does a $15 wash produce a 40% net margin? Why did private equity pay $3.1 billion to take a company private that the stock market didn't want? And what is the one structural shift that turned a commodity service into a subscription machine? There are roughly 60,000 car wash businesses operating in the United States right now. Most people drive past them every day without thinking twice. You pull in, you hand over 15ers, you pull out 3 minutes later with a clean car, and you forget the transaction happened before you reach the next traffic light. That invisibility is the first thing you need to understand about this business. The car wash is one of the most overlooked cash flow machines in the American service economy, and the people who figured that out first have built some of the most quietly extraordinary returns in retail history. The industry generated approximately $20.7 billion in revenue in 2025. That is more than the entire US greeting card industry, more than most people's mental model of what a business built around soap and water could possibly produce. And unlike most service businesses of that scale, it is still 80% independently owned. The top 50 operators in the country control less than 8% of the total market, which means right now, in 2026, the car wash industry is where fast food was in 1975. Fragmented, local, and waiting for someone to show up with a systematic approach and patient capital. But before you understand why private equity has been pouring money into it for the last decade, you need to understand the 3 formats that define this industry, because they are not the same business. They share a name and a product, but the economics are completely different depending on which building you walk into. A self-service wash, the kind with coin-operated wands and vacuum stations, generates between $40,000 and $100,000 per bay annually. Low overhead, no labor, almost no management required, but limited upside and aging customer demographics. A full-service wash where employees clean the interior and exterior by hand generates higher revenue per ticket, but runs labor costs that compress margins to somewhere between 20 and 30%. And then there is the format that changed everything: the express tunnel. The express tunnel is the reason the car wash industry has spent the last 5 years on the cover of every private equity pitch deck in the country. Cars enter a conveyor system, pass through automated equipment, and exit in 3 to 5 minutes. No interior cleaning, no hand drying. Just a fast automated exterior wash at high volume, low labor, and margins that most restaurant operators would find humiliating by comparison. A well-located express tunnel in a high-traffic market can generate between $1.5 million and $4 million in annual revenue, with operating margins between 35 and 50%. But the format itself is only half the story. The other half is what the smartest operators figured out about how to charge for it. And that is where the real economics begin. Now we get to the question that actually matters. Where does the money come from? And why does the format determine everything? The answer is the membership model, and it is the single most important structural shift in the car wash industry in the last 20 years. Here is how it works. Instead of charging a customer $15 every time they show up, you offer them an unlimited wash club membership for $30 to $50 per month. They can wash as many times as they want. For the customer, it feels like a deal. For the operator, it is a transformation of the entire business model. Non-members wash their cars an average of 3 times per year. Members wash 3 to 4 times per month. The revenue per customer is not slightly higher. It is dramatically higher. And the margin on that revenue is extraordinary. Subscription gross margins in a mature car wash operation exceed 90%. Not because the cost of washing a car drops to zero for members. It doesn't. But because the fixed infrastructure, the tunnel, the water systems, the equipment is already paid for. Every incremental member wash above a certain threshold is almost pure margin. The operational implications of this are profound. Industry analysts estimated that 60% of a typical express tunnel's cost structure is fixed. That means once you cover your fixed costs, your rent, your equipment amortization, your skeleton crew, every additional car that goes through the tunnel is generating outsized returns. In mature operations with strong membership penetration, subscriptions can represent 60 to 70% of total site revenue. That revenue does not fluctuate with the weather in the same way that a transactional wash does. It does not disappear because it rained for 2 weeks. The direct debit hits on the first of the month regardless of whether the customer showed up. The company that took this model furthest is Mr. Car Wash. Started as a single site in 1969, it spent decades as a regional operator until private equity firm Leonard Green Partners acquired it in 2007 and began building what would become the largest car wash chain in the United States. The key operational innovation was the Unlimited Wash Club, launched in 2003 and scaled aggressively under private equity ownership. By the time Mr. Car Wash went public on the NASDAQ in June 2021 at a $5.6 billion valuation, the Unlimited Wash Club already represented 45% of total wash sales. 4 years later, that number had risen to 77%. In early 2026, Mr. operated 548 locations, generated over $1.5 billion in annual revenue, and counted 2.3 million active Unlimited Wash Club members. Member churn after the first month was just 5%, almost zero thereafter. And then, in February 2026, Mr. Car Wash announced it was going private again. Leonard Green Partners, which had never fully exited and still held 67% of the company, agreed to take the remaining public float private in a deal valuing the company at $3.1 billion. The public market had priced Mr. at roughly 50% below its IPO level for most of its listed life, not because the business was broken, but because the business did not report well over 5 quarters. Car wash value creation compounds over 5 to 7 years. Public markets want earnings visibility in 5 quarters. That mismatch is what sent Mr. back private, and it is also, paradoxically, the clearest signal that the unit economics of the model are exactly as strong as the operators claim. When private equity pays $3.1 billion to take something private that public markets were pricing at half its IPO value, the message is not distress. The message is that patient capital understands something quarterly, earnings do not. Step back for a second. The economics of this industry are genuinely paradoxical. A car wash has some of the most reliable demand in American retail. Cars get dirty in every economic cycle. Parking lots exist in every zip code. The product costs almost nothing to deliver at scale, and yet the gap between a median car wash operation and a top quartile operator is not incremental. It is structural. Format selection, membership penetration, and labor model drive margin differences, that no amount of operational tweaking can fully close. The same industry that produces 40+% EBITDA margins at a well-run express tunnel also contains thousands of operators running self-service bays and full-service locations that struggle to clear 10%. The business is the same. The building is completely different. Getting into this business is not inexpensive. A self-service car wash costs between $200,000 and $800,000 to build. An in-bay automatic runs $375,000 to $685,000, excluding land. An express tunnel, the format with the highest margins, costs upwards of $3 million for a new build. Mr. Car Wash's greenfield sites run above $6 million before sale-leaseback arrangements, and the market has become significantly more competitive since the private equity land grab of 2020 to 2025. Construction costs for new tunnels are 30 to 50% higher than they were 5 years ago. In some markets, 5 or 6 express tunnels now compete for the same customer base, and when that happens, everyone's volume drops simultaneously. Location selection has always mattered in retail. In the car wash industry of 2026, it is the entire game. The cost structure also contains a hidden pressure that most investors underestimate going in. Labor costs across the sector have risen sharply and are not reverting. Average weekly wages for car wash workers climbed to $626 per week by 2024, a structural increase that outpaced inflation. Operators who modeled labor on pre-2020 assumptions are carrying margin risk they did not sign up for. And water costs, though manageable through recycling systems that can recover 30 to 40% of water per wash, remain a consistent variable that scales directly with volume. The business is not passive. It requires active management, equipment maintenance, and a relentless focus on membership conversion to produce the numbers that make the model work. Time to pull it together and answer the actual question. How much money do you make if you do this right? 2 scenarios, real numbers. Scenario 1, a single in-bay automatic, mid-market location, $500,000 all in. Annual revenue at solid utilization, $400,000 to $700,000. After chemicals, water, utilities, maintenance, and debt service, net income to the owner lands between $60,000 and $120,000 per year. Break even in 2 to 4 years, depending on membership penetration and traffic volume. Not a path to extraordinary wealth, but a defensible, largely automated cash flow business with real estate appreciation underneath it. Scenario 2, a single express tunnel with a mature membership program. $3 million to $6 million in capital, a well-trafficked corner location, and 1,500 to 2,000 active members. Annual revenue of $1.5 million to $4 million. EBITDA margins of 35 to 50%. Owner earnings of $500,000 to $1.5 million annually once the site stabilizes, which typically happens within 24 to 36 months of opening. Add a second location with similar characteristics, and you're running a business that most people drive past every day without a second thought, while the operator is compounding returns at a rate that most traditional service businesses cannot match. The private equity firms that built billion-dollar platforms on this model understood something before most people did. The car wash is not a commodity business. It is a real estate-anchored, subscription-driven, automated throughput engine with recurring revenue, defensible local scale, and a customer base that churns at 5% after month 1. It just happens to sell you a clean car on the way out. So if you decide to own a car wash, remember the one rule that defines this industry. The $15 wash is not the product. The membership is the product. The wash is just the reason to sign up.